Thank you all. It's a great privilege to be here this evening, and it's quite fascinating to hear all the speakers talk about innovation. I'm going to make a very short talk of about 10 minutes. I was a resource person at a Young Leaders Conference in China a few years ago, and what I'm going to talk about is what are the key things that young leaders need to know to be successful leaders in their fields. The first thing that emerged at this conference was to know that leadership is an art and a science. Now that sounds like a cliche, but it is not. A lot of research shows that the art of leadership is using the creative side of your brain, and the science is using the rational side of your brain. And leaders need to know right from the beginning, and this is for young leaders who are in the age of 18 to 40, that they need to be aware that they need to be rational and creative in their thinking and emotional. So that was point number one. Point number two is that young leaders need to have not just a goals and vision and mission, as was mentioned by Mrs. Salunke, but they also need to have passion. Now, when venture capitalists ask young entrepreneurs and want to consider investing in them, they say, does he have passion? And they specifically ask, do they have fire in their belly? Now, it is not just a young entrepreneur or a startup who needs to have fire in his belly or can have fire in his belly. Even many older people who have been successful have done so because they've had fire in their belly. Two examples that come to mind is Mukesh Ambani, and he's not a young new entrepreneur, he's a billionaire, but he has fire in his belly that enabled him to come up with the innovation of Jio. Likewise, there have been people way ahead in age, such as Warren Buffett, who is a genius in investments, and he continues to live with a great deal of fire in his belly. So one of the important things for entrepreneurs to be successful is to have fire in their bellies in whatever they do, while they maintain a clarity of vision, mission, and goals. Now, as you go forward, it is true that you face many certain challenges and you may have to change tracks because of GST, because of demonetization, because of low business. But as you go along, you can correct course, but you must maintain focus of your vision and continue to pursue your vision with passion. Young entrepreneurs and old entrepreneurs need to understand that the world has changed with respect to relationship building. Relationships need to be not just external with the government, with your financial institutions, with your vendors, with your suppliers and other stakeholders, but also internal. Internal relationship building in organizations is becoming critically important because the world of loyalty to companies and jobs has ended. Young people now have shorter lifespans in companies, they change jobs a lot, and they want independence, they want flexibility, they want freedom, they want recognition, and they want to be treated as equals. So entrepreneurs now need to learn that if they want to retain and recruit good talent, they need to have a different attitude and mindset toward people who work in their organizations. That is very, very crucial. The other important thing that Mr. Vaidyanathan mentioned was about the importance of coping with change. Leaders should be able to, the rate of their learning should be greater than the rate of change in the environment. Because if you don't learn fast enough to cope with change, then you get swamped. It's been, Mr. Vaidyanathan gave examples of Uber, there's many other companies like, Amazon and so many companies that are emerging that are forcing dramatic changes. And he mentioned the digital revolution that is making such dramatic changes that you need to keep pace. So leaders need to constantly learn. Now, how do you learn? There's an old saying that goes, leaders are readers. You need to be connecting with people, not just in your own industry, in your own segment, in your own space, but also across a wider spectrum of people. Today's entrepreneurs and business people need to connect with people from diverse backgrounds, with people who are professors, teachers, scientists, and even artists and theater personnel, in order to widen their broad-base their scope and outlook in order to be successful as entrepreneurs. You cannot restrict yourself to a limited space. Sunita mentioned that India is going to talk, Mr. Modi's government is talking about replacing all fossil fuel-based vehicles with electric vehicles. Just got a message 2 days ago that a Stanford professor, I think his name is Falk, has said that in 20 to 30 years, the world is going to cause a wiping off of a large number of petroleum companies and automobile companies with this self-driven electric vehicles coming on board. And he's given projected numbers that within 30 years, what is going to be exact number of vehicles that will be available, and that how all these industries are going to get wiped out. So to be a successful leader and entrepreneur, whether you're looking at innovation, you have to look at the environment and what is changing and how fast it is changing. And that is a crucial thing that is happening, because the world is changing so rapidly with so many changes happening because of technology that we are lost, and before we know where we are, we get hit by something new. So these are some of the critical things we need to do. Another important thing that's often been talked about is many Indian entrepreneurs are very hardworking and they work a lot and they try their best to succeed. And as one major famous business person from India told me, he said, I was asked, aren't you very lucky to be so successful? And I said, actually, you're right. The harder I work, the luckier I get, because that's what really makes me successful. So these are the factors that help you to be successful. But what is very important is to understand that in whatever you do, in your work, you must have passion, and you can only have that if you enjoy what you do. So if you enjoy your work as an entrepreneur, whether you're attempting to innovate or create or develop or grow, you need to make sure you enjoy your work. If you do not enjoy your work, you cannot succeed. You must enjoy your work and have fun. Rupert Murdoch says, when he was asked why he works so hard, he says because he has fun working. Now how can you imagine Rupert Murdoch having fun? But he says, I love my work. So if you don't love your work, you do not succeed. And that is a crucial thing to know in order for you to succeed. And last but not the least, for people to be successful and entrepreneurs to live successfully and happily, they must live a balanced life. You must balance your life, not just work, but also your personal life. Relationships, personal relationships, health are critical and important. If you do not focus on these, you will not be successful. Again, biological research shows that people who live a balanced life are even more successful in their work, because that drives your biology to work more effectively. So I run a leadership management training company, and we find such a dearth of this in this country. And it is amazing how little leadership training is conducted in small and medium countries in India. And we are doing a huge work in that, including in the company that is hosting this function, CT now. And I just wanted to share some of these thoughts which I got out of the conference I attended in Beijing a few years ago. And we have a whole lot of material on this, and we've done a lot of research. So thank you all for the few minutes. Thank you.